Okay, good afternoon and welcome to the Bendigo Tech Schools live streaming platform and our live streaming videos. So I'll get into it for today. I'm just going to head back into Final Cut. You don't want to see all my old videos. So I'll just go into a blank project. So what we're looking at today, obviously, is Final Cut Pro on the Mac. Now you won't see me today. I'm running from my Mac, and I don't have my camera set up on there because I find that it does make the fan spin up a little bit. It's an older Mac, but I'm going to run you through Final Cut Pro. So let me just quickly go into here, and I'm just going to do a new project. Alrighty, yeah, that'll do. Okay, wonderful. So, look, there's Robbie. I did a video the other day for my son's birthday, so we have lots of stupid videos like my brother there that we put together to make his birthday videos. That's what that is. But anyway. So Final Cut Pro. So let me just make sure everything is working. I'm just going to switch across. Cool, all good there. All right, so what we're looking at today is Final Cut Pro. So I've done a bunch of videos on obviously Adobe Premiere Pro, which is your video editing software. Final Cut Pro is the equivalent, I would almost say better, on the Mac. Now, I guess the biggest difference between Premiere Pro and Final Cut is that Premiere is available on Mac and Windows platforms, obviously through the Adobe Creative Suite, and Final Cut is only available on Mac. So I guess that will limit our audience. So I'm doing this one obviously for the few teachers that wanted to have a bit of an intro. They've got Mac at school, or their students have Macs at school. I know, BSE has a lot of Macs. There are quite a lot of advantages to Final Cut over Premiere Pro, mainly the price. Final Cut is a purchase price. You just buy the software and you own it, like the good old days. It's not subscription based like Adobe is with their software. So I can't remember the price. I bought it a long time ago. I believe it's in the vicinity of $200 to $400. That's a pretty big gap, I suppose. I should look it up. But yeah, so you do buy the software. But I bought it years ago. Like I'm talking like, heck, maybe 10, 15 years ago, and I've not paid for an upgrade since. So that's pretty impressive, I gotta say, for software-wise. Like, if you think about Premiere Pro, you're paying a monthly subscription to have that, and you still don't even own it. So yeah, it is an alternative. Obviously, you do need a Mac. I guess that's the bare minimum in terms of what you need. Obviously, iPads don't count. You do have iMovie on your iPad, which does plug into Final Cut Pro. You can export projects from iMovie into Final Cut if you want to do some more editing. So you could use the iPad and do some editing down there and then export it to Final Cut and do a bit more. You can also export from Premiere into Final Cut too. So you do have some options. But anyway, let's get into it. I guess personal opinion, personal preference. I do like Final Cut better. I think it is easier to use, which is down to things like the user interface and a lot of control, I guess unneeded control, is not front and center in your face. You can kind of go into a granular level and find a lot of stuff, but most of it is just kind of tucked away and just works. So I do like it for that. It's also incredibly stable. I've never had Final Cut crash on me before, whereas I have Premiere crash every 5 minutes. So bit of a difference there as well. But let's get into it. So again, this is an intro session. So this is for people that have never used Final Cut before, or maybe they've just, they've got it on their laptops and want to check it out. I'm not sure if the DT or any of the public school system or private school system actually has it as part of their software suite. I'm find out, I suppose. But you can also get, you can get educational versions. I think if you hit up Apple, I'm sure they would love to help you out. I think they might be struggling for cash, but they'll help you out. Anyway, let's get into it. So Final Cut Pro, I'm just going to go and do a new project. Now, one big thing with all video editing software, I mentioned this in my Premiere video as well, is I would definitely look at investing in an external drive. I'm using a Samsung T7, thank you, Mr. Wiggins, for my drive. So I actually have that plugged in and I'm running straight from that external drive. It's running through USB-C, so it's pretty fast. It's as fast as probably my internal drives on my computer. But it's got a stack more storage because Final Cut does really make a lot of project files. We're talking about gigabytes and gigabytes of project files. So you will fill up your computer pretty fast when you start working in video editing. And of course, you want to have as much free space as you can on your computer for video editing for things like scratch disks and stuff. So I would definitely look at, if you can, if you're doing video editing, investing in an external drive, plug it into your machine and kind of running everything from there. I also know that I can unplug my drive whenever I want and plug it into any other machine. And then I've got my entire video editing packages and software and everything's there ready to go. So it's pretty handy. But anyway, that's me. That's why I have my library, which is up here. So you can create multiple libraries, and your library is where you contain all of your video files or your project files. All those kind of things are sitting there in a library. So you can have multiple libraries. You can have a work library and a home library, and it saves kind of mixing those things up. So I've got my external drive here. So I'm just going to do a new project. Okay, so when you start a new project, you're given this little interface here. So basically, this is telling you what format are you working in? Okay, so name obviously of the project time, but then here's your video format. So are you working, probably when most people are still working in 1080p, or you can work in 4, 5, 8, or 360 degrees in terms of what video format you're using. So I have done 4, 8, and we've done 360 obviously at the tech school, but generally I'm working in 1080p, which is 1920 by 1080 resolution, and the frame rate is probably going to be about 30 frames a second. I do a lot of filming from my phone at 60 frames, so you might use that as well. But you can also use automatic settings, and what that will do is that will just automatically adjust to whatever the first clip you drag in. It'll automatically look at that and go, right, it's this kind of a file at this frame rate, and automatically set it for you. So you can do that too if you're unsure, or you can also go into custom and you can change any of these kind of things here. So you might not want a widescreen resolution. You might want to custom, say, I don't know, maybe you're making a school post for your Instagram page, which is 1080 by 1080, a square resolution. You can do that just by manually typing in 1080. By typing in that resolution there, you can change your frame rate. You can do a bunch of things as well. So that is in the custom format. I'm just going to go back to 1080p. Okay, and that's about it. Your rendering, I wouldn't stress too much about your rendering here. That is just how it renders a video out, but we won't worry about that just now. So I'm just gonna hit OK. All right, and when you've done that, you've got this blank timeline. So this is where your video is going to be edited. Okay, so here's our timeline down here. Up here, we have our final output. So what Final Cut does, and I explained this in the Premiere video as well, is it's a non-destructive video editor. So it's actually not going to edit or destroy or delete any video footage you put in there. So when you drag your footage in, it sits here in your your media library. And then when you put that footage down here in your timeline, you're going to make cuts and edits, but it's actually not affecting the original video. You're kind of making a new video, and that's what rendering is called. So it'll make a whole new video, which is up here kind of temporarily rendered, so you can see what the final output looks like. But once you're done doing all your editing, you hit render, and it applies all of those effects, the cuts, the transitions, all that kind of stuff, and creates a new video file. So you never actually edit your old video files. They're always going to be fine, okay? So that's what non-destructive video editing means, and that's what Final Cut is as well, like pretty much most video editors these days. So this is your final output here. Over here, we have our panels for all of our edits. So depending on what we're looking at, if we're working in text, if we're working in over here in our actual video, so we can change the properties of the video, which I'll show you later. This is your color corrections. I'm not going to worry too much about color corrections. That would probably be more if you're getting into production and video production. So for instance, at the tech school, we have an awesome, Matt set up an awesome little media studio near our cyclorama. That's a green screen for people like me that don't know what a cyclorama was until Graham told them. So in there, we have some pretty powerful computers, but probably the main thing we have in there are 2 reference grade monitors. So they're monitors that are really designed for color editing and grading, so you can get that perfect color. So in other words, what you see on the screen is what your final output looks like. So they're pretty pricey monitors, but I'm told they're pretty cool. So that's your color grading. I'm not going to stress about that because I'm not a Peter Jackson or something like that. All right, and then down here we just have information. So this is just talking about whatever it is that we're working on. It'll talk about it there. Then down here, we have 2 main panels. We have our transitions. So our transitions are obviously transitioning from one video to another, and that's your simple transition here. And again, this is why I like things like Final Cut. It's just really visual. You can see what is a 360 reveal wipe. Well, that's what it is. And if I actually had video footage there, it would actually show me that working on my video footage before I even apply it. Okay, so again, it's just a lot more easy, a lot more visual to work with, and I just think way clearer and easier than kind of going through Premiere's just tabs upon tabs upon tabs of just information, and I think there's just too much there. But again, that's just me. I'm not getting paid for this video. Well, I guess I technically am from the tech school, but you know, not from Apple, but hey. Okay, so there's all your transitions down there. And then over here, we have our, oops, I'm just gonna go back here, to our effects. And these are video effects. So we've got things like, you know, just the look of the video. You can change visually what it looks like. You can change, if we scroll down here, you've got a whole bunch of effects in terms of, you know, rain and SLR and just basically a lot of color effects down here as well. So they're all your effects that you can add to your video footage. And then of course we've got things like keying, you know, if we want to actually do some green screening, we can do all that kind of stuff down here. We've got our audio effects, so a bunch of effects that you can do, but again, not too many, right? Like just probably enough that you need that you're working with. And that's what's down there. And then let's do some work. So here's our media library. This is obviously my media library of stuff I've been working on for Raf. Oh, look, little Raf. So what happens is whenever you're trying to do some editing, you basically drop your video. We'll use Robbie today. Let's use Robbie for our example. There's a bit of video footage I have from Robbie, and I wanted to put it into this video. So what I've done is I've just dropped it in here in basically my media library. Now what this is doing is, I'll show you. Let's do reveal in Finder. Okay, so what this is doing is this here is not actually copying, that's Brad, he's from the Trading Post. It's not actually copying any of your video files, okay? It's just linking them. So this little shortcut here is linked to my Rafferty B-Day folder, which is also on that external drive, okay? So it's linking to that file, which means if I delete that original file, all right, when I open up Final Cut next time, that file won't be there. There'll be a big red, I think I saw some before, a big red missing, okay, because the file's not there anymore. So you've got to remember that when you're doing stuff like this, that it's not, it's not copying those files anywhere. It's just linking to them, okay, or I guess it's referencing them. So again, that's why working on a portable is really handy, because I know all of my video files are sitting on that portable drive, and that's where they're going to be. So if I switch from a different computer or I save something on a desktop and if I get to copy it across, I'm not going to have those problems. Everything is sitting there in that portable file. So that's what is happening here. So if I grab Robbie and put him down here. Again, this video file is kind of ready to go. Okay, and thank you again, Robbie, for this message. This was for Raf's birthday. It was lovely. He doesn't clean the gutters. So this video file down here again is just reference. So I can reveal it again in the browser. It is just referencing that port, that point there. Oops, on my hard drive. Okay, so it's not actually again copied here. So let's do some work. Let's do some cutting. So first things first, obviously, if we want to edit this video, you can see I might just zoom in down here. If I zoom in, what I'm doing is I'm just stretching out that timeline. So now I can see here exactly how long this goes for. You can zoom all the way in to the individual frames as well. So that's one of those is every frame. Okay, now technically, depending on what this video was, let's have a look. It's over here. We can see where the video is. We can see it's 30 frames a second. So we should have every second of film footage, there'll be 30 of these little Robbies down here as well. You can also see the resolution of this video is pretty low, 360 by 260. Robbie obviously doesn't love Rafi enough to give him full high definition. So yeah, so what we can do here is if we want to make some edits, I'm gonna get rid of, if I want to get rid of that, I press the B key to get my blade out, or also you've got to remember those keys as well are over here, okay? So they're your shortcut keys, so you can just kind of jump between them because you don't want to be sitting here doing work and then having to go up here and then having to, remember what they are. So B for blade, and again, for people that don't know that lesson, the reason why it's a razor blade is because back in the old days, when you would edit film footage, you would actually cut the film footage because it was, recorded on film. You would cut the film, take sections out, and then retape them together. That's how you'd make your edit. So that's what we're going to do here. We'll get rid of this bit here. So I'm going to just blade there and there. I'm going to do A to select it, and then I've got this bit of footage. Now I can either just pull it straight out if I want to, all right, or I can delete it. You'll notice there's a difference. If I delete it, it leaves this kind of gray gap there saying, hey, do you want to put something else in there? And then you can have to kind of shrink that down to make it fit. Or if I kind of move it out, it's gone, okay? And that gap goes together. And then this video footage is sitting over here. Now I'm gonna show you why I've got that there in a second. So we can move that footage wherever we like. I might just do another cut here and here, okay? And I'll move that over there. Let's move it back here. And while I've done that, why don't I show you how the transitions work? So if you go in the transitions, again, it's pretty simple. I just drag it and I just drop it on there, okay? It's gonna tell me it's a bit too short for that transition, but that's okay. And there's our transition now. See how it works straight away? Okay, so you're seeing, it's actually, those little dots there means it's rendering it. So it's gonna give me, if I hit play on that, I'll hit play. There we go. So this is like a rendered version. So it's actually rendering what that effect would look like up here, and it does it in a quick way. So some things will be done quicker than others. Some will take a bit of time. So if I change to a circle wipe, all right, let's kind of transition that over here. Again, it'll say it's a bit short, but that's okay. All right, and then we hit play on that. You can see it's taking a little bit longer because what that was happening there is it had to kind of calculate what that transition looks like and do that as well. Because again, it's not actually applying this yet. It's just kind of rendering out a temporary version of it. So there we go there. So there's our transitions, and that's moving stuff. Pretty easy. You'll notice that when I move this video over here, again, it doesn't really say, layers. We talk about layers a lot. Final Cut is really clean, unlike Premiere where you have a whole bunch of these kind of lines for layers. It does layers as well, but it doesn't kind of throw them in your face. So if I just kind of go across here, I'm just going to detach this audio. There's my audio layer. So everything kind of just sits where it needs to be. And these are my video layers. So because I have this video above this video, I'll move it across so you can see what happens. It's going to play that video, and then as it's going to go to there, it'll play that video, because that video is above this one here. So what I can do, let me show you another panel down here. If I go over here, I'm going to select that video, and then we've got our effects down here. I might scale that one down. There we go. So now you can see that happening. You can see that video is over that video there. And if I want to move it around, I'm just going to select that one to move it. And I'll just kind of put that over there in the corner. 2 Robbies are better than 1. All right, so now we have kind of that video happening there. So that's how your layering works. Okay, so very similar to the Premiere. And same with audio, you can layer audio as well. All right, but again, you don't have to stress too much about where it goes. As long as you can visually see how it's layered, which I can here, which is why I like it, I can tell where everything is. Okay, so pretty simple there. All right, over here, I might as well go back to this panel. So we can start to see what we can do to the video files. We can change the scale, we can change the position, we can kind of rotate them around. This is just affecting what that is. Now, I can do it with a video file, I can do it with a photo, I can do it with whatever I basically drag on top of there. I can edit it like this as well. I can crop it from the left. Let's crop that down. Let's just get more Robbie. We don't need background, we just want Robbie. There we go. I can, of course, move it. I showed you that before. Down here, we can put some stabilization on it. Again, all this is just automatic, okay? So it'll automatically do that. It'll automatically kind of fix this up. So it's all done for you without having to stress. So let's just show that. Let's go to stabilization. We can see if it's any good. That was a pretty stable video anyway. But it'll apply those effects for us as well. And then that's it, you're done. So they're the effects just on the video. Now, if we actually put an effect on it, so if I go into my effect panel, let's put, and again, see how if I leave it over there, it starts to show it happening straight away. Whoa, close up. Let me put on, what's one that I can actually have a lot of effects on? I'll put, there's so many. Let's just put comic on. All right, so I'll drag that on. All right, so once it's dragged on, it loads the effect, and there it is there. Unlike Premiere, it automatically applies it too. So I can turn that off just by hitting that tick, okay? But then once I put an effect on, you'll notice this panel now has a few more options, okay? Or I can take that tick to turn all effects off. If I had a bunch, it'll just turn them all off automatically. So from here, I've got, now obviously each effect I use is gonna have different controls. So I can start to change what that individual thing does, okay? So we have a lot of options down here as well. And it'll all depend on what effect that you use as to what it's going to look like. And that's it, that's applied. And you can see as I play, that's there as well. Oh, look at those beautiful eyes. That's there as well, applied. Okay, so again, it's pretty simple. I really like it. So then as we go into our audio, so down here, we have our audio options. Okay, again, audio just for that video. We can see, we can go in, we can use the equalizer, we can analyze it automatically. It'll see what's wrong. You can see there it's automatically giving me some suggestions on how to increase it. It's giving me some suggestions on how to remove some of the noise, how to remove some hum. It's just scanned it all for me automatically. So we hit play on that. There we go. So pretty easy. Okay, and like I've nearly almost finished this video because like I said, Final Cut is just so simple to use as an intro project. And then if you want to do more complex stuff, then you just kind of look into that. That's kind of how I work with it. It's like, I use it for what I need, and then if I'm like, well, I want to be able to do X, I'll then just Google how do I do X, and then I'll figure it out. As opposed to, again, Premiere just having all that information shoved in your face. So down here we have a few other options as well. So this one was for obviously moving our film footage, okay, and changing it, cropping it, distorting it. And down here is our timing, so we can speed it up, we can slow it down, we can hold it, which gives it basically a pause, and we can choose how long we want to pause on that frame for. We'll hold it for a long time, okay. And that's just on a pause basically before it goes back into the frame. We also then have speed up, speed down, obviously. We can reverse the clip. We've got instant replay. So there's a whole bunch of options here in terms of the video quality. All right, so that's not quality, video playback. And that's down there. All right, let me undo a couple of these things. And I'll show you a couple more things. Let me show you animation, because just like Premiere, you can do keyframe animation in here as well. So if we go back to our properties, all right, here's our video properties, and here is our transform. So here's my video of Robbie in the corner. So down here, you'll notice nearly every effect, okay, has this little plus next to it, okay? And that's to add a keyframe. So just like Premiere, we add a keyframe, which means it kind of like stamps where it is or its properties. And then if we scrub along in the video and make some changes, and then we do another keyframe, it will go, all right, okay, now I'm over here, or now I've changed to this, and it will then animate between the two. So let me show you. I'm gonna go to the start of this video, and I'm just gonna go and put a positional keyframe in, and I might put a scale keyframe in. And then I'm gonna scrub across to this part of the video. I'm gonna move Robbie over here, and you'll see that red kind of arrow showing you where he's gonna go. Okay, and then I'm going to scale him up. All right. So now if I scroll back, you can see it's following that path. You can see the path it's following. You can see how it's scaling. Again, super visual. So much so if I go in here and pull that down, you can now start to see the new path it's going to follow, because it automatically made a new keyframe. Or if I pull this up and I pull it up here, it's made another keyframe. So now it's just going to follow that path as we play that. All right, so really handy for things like if you're doing a lot of text and you're doing flyovers, or you want some text to appear at a certain spot, or you wanted something to come on the screen, that's your keyframing. If you want to change your scale, you want to have something grow, something shrink, all that's done in your keyframing options down here. And once you're done with them, you just turn off those keyframes and you're right to go. Text, speaking of text, it's in a different spot. Text is up here in the top left, okay? So here's our projects, here's our media library, and then here is our text, titles, and generators. So if I go into text, this is where all your text is. Again, you have a whole bunch of preset ones, okay? And it's just like a drag and drop kind of thing. The 3D stuff's actually pretty cool. And then you just drag that text in. So if I wanted to drag this over here, I drop it where I want it to go. And then down here, I've got a text option. I'm gonna go in the text. All right, so I can choose to change that kind of the text here. Or if I go into this one here, I can change what the actual text is. I'll just call it Robbie. All right, and that's going to automatically apply all those effects. And then if I hit play on that, again, you can see it's kind of rendering it. There we go. So a little stuttering there because my Mac is just rendering that out. You can see the little dots here saying that it's rendering this out. Again, it's not making a final video. It's just making a quick preview video. So now if we try that. Whoa, what a video. Again, that's still a bit kind of jumpy because it's actually, you can still see here, it's kind of counting down as it's actually rendering this video out. You can see up here, the computer's actually running away to try and make that render. So now those dots are gone. Now it's going, all right, that's done. This is what it's going to look like if I export it. Okay, so again, super simple. So there's our text, a whole bunch of text options down there. Where's the classic Star Wars one? I wonder if Star Wars could sue them for that. Probably not. So if we drop that over there, we now have another text option. And again, you can see here, it's just kind of churning away. Up here, you can actually see what's happening. Probably shouldn't have clicked that while it was rendering. So you can see it's making that in the background. Here it is. In the background, it's kind of quickly rendering that out so we can see what it looks like. So that's a background renderer, but I'm just going to cancel that because I don't want it to slow my computer down. So there you go. So that's kind of like some more text options down there. Then we have our generators. So these are for background information. I might just delete a couple of these text boxes. So, if I just want to have this kind of animated curtain, I'll just drag it on. Okay. And it basically generates a kind of continuous video file. That's what's called a generator. So if you wanted some kind of video curtain thing and then you could have a transition so the curtain's open, you can do that. There's things like gradients that move. There's, a whole bunch of little video clips that you can jump in there. Your backgrounds are just a still image. And then your textures and your solids down here, that's if you want to have a color behind it. So if I wanted to have a solid white background behind Roberto, I'll move that over there. Then I now have that white background. Now again, you can see that's in front, so I'll just delete that. So there's that white background. If I click on that, that also has options as well. So I'll go to bright white. And there we go. There's our generator. Okay, and then textures as well. We have some textures down there. You can add as many as you want. These are all the ones that are just kind of built into the software. And you can see my CPU is kind of getting hammered a little bit. Any kind of video editing software is very kind of CPU intensive. Okay, so again, that's why you want to have a fairly fastish computer, but also a pretty, big hard drive, so you can kind of render all this stuff on that drive, and it's not going to feel like your scratch disks. But that's about it, really. It's really a package I think you should play in. Like, once you have a play in it and you see how it all works, you'll actually get a lot more out of it. But it is so simple, it's ridiculous. And like I said, you can do super powerful stuff. Even just have a Google of some of the stuff. If you jump to Apple's website and their Final Cut website, they'll show you some of the big projects that they've worked on, and you can see just what you can do, right? So this is just an intro showing you the basics of it, but this should be enough for you to be able to film some stuff for school, make some edits, do some cool text, do some good transitions, and actually make a pretty good looking video, right? Without going crazy in the effects. But if you do want to do that, jump online and have a look at what else you've got. So finally, once you're ready to go, we basically export our final video. So this is saved, but this project is saved, okay? All these video clips, they're not saved. They're still where they are on the original location, okay? I haven't moved them anywhere. But all these edits that we've made, these cuts and these renders and these transitions and those kind of things, they are not saved, okay? They are just sitting there in that project file. So once I save this, it saves our project. So it saves all these settings and all these effects and changes that we made, okay? But if I want to then give this to someone, like the video is done and I want them to have a copy of it, you don't give them your Final Cut project, because that is just a project file. If they open that, if they could, they would not have any of these videos. So we actually have to share it. So that's what the term they use here is actually called sharing. So I'm going to go share, and then you've got a few options on how you want to share it. And this is all going to depend on what, where the video is going. Again, it's nice and simple compared to Premiere, where you have a billion codecs. So I'm just going to go Apple devices 1080p. It'll work on all devices, but down here we can see what it's looking at. So we've got our format. Where is it going to go? Is it going to go to a computer? Is it going to go to web hosting? What that is doing is just changing the way it's compressed. So if it's going to web hosting like YouTube, it just changes the compression a bit. Then you then have your codecs, which for 1080p is generally H.264, and then you can choose your resolution. And then you just hit next, and away you go. It gives you a rough file size of where it's going to, how big it's going to be, and then it's going to be done. So it's as simple as that. So I'll hit next, and that's going to render away. So we'll put it on Final Videos. I'll call it Robbie. And now what's going to do is it's actually going to render this out. So we have kind of like a preview render here, but it's not the final render. It's not the, the perfect quality. In fact, the quality here has actually dropped down quite a lot, so we can see that preview in real time. Okay, so you can see it's working up here. Now it's actually generating that video. Okay, so now it's creating that final video. I don't know how long it'll take. I'm going to see if I can take up the time just chatting away. So what it's doing now is it's looking at this final project here. It's looking where we made the cuts. It's looking where we've got these text boxes, any effects that we did, any color grading, and now it's applying all of that, and it's actually rendering or creating a whole new video that's going to have that information on there. Okay, so that's the video you then want to share with other people if they want to watch it, or you're going to upload it to YouTube, those kind of things. So that's your rendering of the video. And I think if I talk slower, it might be done in time. But that's about it for Final Cut. So a nice easy one for you to get into. So please have a go. If you do have it, try it out. If your students also want to get into video editing and you find that maybe Premiere Pro is a bit daunting to teach, which I personally think it is as well, this could be a really good one to teach video editing in the classroom, if they're obviously got Macs, because I think it is just a really good kind of gateway into video editing, but it can do so much more. So it's perfect for the classroom. And that is that video done. Let's go to our video over here. We'll go to Final Videos, and then we have Robbie. Wow. That's an amazing video. I like that. I reckon that'll we'll love that to the YouTube channel. It'll be a hit. But that's it for me. So I hope you enjoyed that one. I'll just double check. We're all good. All right, wonderful. No comments. So I'm going to let everyone go and have a lovely afternoon. And tomorrow, I forget to plug tomorrow. I always forget to plug tomorrow. Tomorrow, let's see if we have our YouTube channel. That's me live streaming. We'll go back to our channel. Actually, not here, but tomorrow we will have the second Autodesk Inventor Masterclass is going to be up and live. Hopefully I'll have it up tonight, depending on how Matt is traveling with that. It'll be, again, a pre-recorded video, but it'll be available tomorrow at 4 o'clock for everyone to watch. And that's a good one. All right, thank you, everybody.